Welcome to the March 2nd, 2023 Natchitoches Parish School Board Committee has a whole meeting. If you would, please silence all your electronic devices, and should you care to address the board, there's a form in the back of the room to do that, just that. Fill it out and pass it forward to the front. Ms. Revels, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Danzy.
Here.
Mr. Matuire.
Here.
Mr. Benefiel.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Mrs. McGaskey. Ms. Palmer.
Here.
Ms. Phelps. Ms. Harvey. Here. Mr. Fredu.
Here.
Mr. Nicholson.
Here.
And Mrs. Page. We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we get started, I'd like to know how many Gator fans we have here in the house. And good luck to the Lakeview Gators, both the boys and the boys and the girls tomorrow night. This is a very, very special time. Superintendent Eloy, we continue to receive good news every day, it seems like, in Natchitoches Parish. And so can you expound on some of that good news?
So you did steal my thunder because I was going to talk about how Natchitoches is probably the best basketball parish in the state right now. I mean, all four of our teams made it to the playoffs. Unfortunately, both central teams are now out, but championship tomorrow and quarters tomorrow as well. So there's that. I also want to mention something that we probably none of you anticipated, but if you recall when school performance scores came out in November, late November, I had mentioned that there was still some lagging data that the state had gotten late, and they were going to do some refinements and put out those new scores. Well, they did officially today, and without doing anything, today our district performance score grew 0.9 of a point from a half a point from a 75.9 to a 76.4 without us doing anything except them getting the data right. And also, more importantly, Natchitoches Central, which when y'all got the data in November, had showed a small decline from 2021 to 2022. With the fix that LDOE put into place today, they actually showed an increase from previously from an 86.3 to an 87.2, and that median score that they had held before was an 85.5. So they increased 2.2 or 1.7 points from the score they gave in November, which is overall an increase of 0.9 of a point from 2021. All that being said, it's all improvements, it's all great, and we didn't have to do anything except let the state get all the data right. So we're very excited about that. I have a few just minor things, and then I have some guests that I'm going to turn the superintendent report over to. Board photo, I know we've been kind of lagging on that. We're going to get a board photo with y'all. Ms. Kanika is going to schedule that for April. So as long as we can get all our schedules aligned, we'll make that happen then. So be on the lookout for an email.
So we'll take that in front of the dirt pile?
Wherever y'all want to take it. Unfortunately, those old drapes in my office are no longer there where y'all used to take it. So, and then one other thing that I want to mention, because many of you may have seen that I'm sharing on Facebook and other social media that we're having our teacher job fair March 15th. At the same time, I'm going to be coming to y'all next month to explain, we've been doing recruiting efforts, whether it was CIR payments or signing bonuses at schools of need. Well, we want to be flexible and dynamic and progressive and pragmatic. And so what we're looking at is last year we did it one way to recruit people, but we feel the need to refine some of those things. And some of the things we're looking at is what schools to target. Right now in my head, those schools are LP Vaughn, Goldana, NJH, and in Lakeview to really get stronger staffs there. And we're going to put some big things out there, some big figures to attract people to this parish, even more so than we did last year, which y'all remember how successful that was. So I'm going to be bringing that to y'all next month, but I kind of wanted to tease it because I want people thinking about it when they come to our job fair in between now and then. With no further ado, I think we have Dr. Ben, who wants to share with us all about the Rock House. And then after he shares with us about the Rock House, which anyone who drives by there sees the exciting things going on, which we want to share with all our social studies students so they can be a part of that.
Yes.
But then we're also going to have something that I did specifically for you, Miss Dot,
Thank
and
you.
actually for everybody, but I think you're going to like it the most, is we have some mental health initiatives that some local folks are going to share with us that I think are going to be really exciting.
Wonderful.
So without any further ado, if Dr. Ben Barron, if you don't mind coming up to the podium, we all have the literature that he provided us.
Is this a good spot?
Yes, it is.
I walked in a while ago, and Steve and I were talking. He said, "Did you bring something to give the board?" I said, "Sure, right here." He said, "I'll give it out." I said, "Okay, you tell them they're welcome to it and you can read it, but not while I'm talking." I said, I've been a school teacher all my life. And one thing you teach the teachers, don't hand them material that they can look at and you're trying to explain something. They can read the material. So if I treat you like my class, I ask for my forgiveness. I can't get away from it. I'm Ben Barron. I'm a member of the Natchitoches Historic Foundation. And my job with the foundation is to chair the steering committee for the Rock House project. Last Monday, I was in Stephen's office and his brother Al's office, and we're talking about the Rock House. We're talking about the story of the Rock House and what we're doing and why we're doing it. He said, "This story needs to get out. It needs to go. You need to go for the school board." So, boy, right away he made a phone call and kind of I said, "Well, get him down there and let him do his thing." So that's how I got here. Now, the material you have in front of you, I'm just going to give you a snapshot of all that. So that's for you to take home. It's got great detail, but I'll present the snapshot in three parts. The first part is the story of the Rock House. Now, the story of the Rock House begins with a man named Yves Pacale, P-A-C-A-L-E. That's not Pascal. His name is Pacale, and it's pronounced Pacale. He was born in 1736, born downriver, born to African slaves, both of them from Africa. So he was born as a slave into the Darban family. At 62 years of age, in 1798, the widow of the Darban family died, and the heirs allowed Yves to talk to him. At that time, all of us were under the rule of France, and France had manumission, which meant that slaves could buy their own freedom. Under the U.S., that changed a lot. So he went to the heirs and negotiated with them through manumission, and I think paid them $100, and they gave him his freedom. Now, the question comes up, how in the world did he get $100? Well, the widow, Darban, liked him. He was a good carpenter, so she allowed him to do chores around the countryside, so he saved a few dollars. He used those dollars to buy his freedom. He lived in the area of Albreville. He lived, we know exactly the spot he lived, the spot he built his house. We have all that data. Down then, on that part of the world, if you had big plantations, the plantation would have plantation A here, plantation B here, and leave land in between that nobody owned, unsurveyed, vacant land. And it was practiced then for poor people that couldn't buy houses. They could move those spots and build them a house. That's what Yves Pacale did. He stepped on that land, unsurveyed, vacant land, and him and his friends started building the house. They started in 1801. In 1802, he did other work, made enough money, and bought another slave, his wife, and granted her her freedom. So in 1802, he moved his wife with her freedom into that house. 1803, he finished the house, went back, saved some more money, and bought all that land. He bought 91 acres. So he was a landowner right there in his house. In 1806, his first wife passed away, saved more money, went and bought a second slave that was his wife who lived in the house with him. In 1812, he borrowed from a Twyer $800, you know the name of Twyer if you follow the history of Natchitoches Parish, and bought his daughter's freedom. His daughter lived with him in the house till 1818, and Pacale died, willed the house to his daughter. We can't find records of who lived in the house from 1818 to 1856, but in 1856, a one-year-old young girl named Philomene Rock moved into the house. She lived in the house to 1941, 85 years. We call the Rock House after her. Seems fitting if she lived there 85 years, it should be named after her. So that's why we call it the Rock House. We gave it that name, or public gave it that name. In 1967, we had a mayor here in Natchitoches called Robert W. You probably recognize the name. And he had this thing that, boy, he wanted a tourist attraction to get people to come to Natchitoches. So Museum Contents, Inc., headed up by Peyton Cunningham, that we just had his funeral this last day or so, got together with the Museum Contents, Inc., went down and got that house. Now, we can't find evidence whether he begged them and they gave him the house or whether he bought the house. But in 1967, it was packed full of hay, and the owner, John Henry, got rid of the house. So that's how the house was given to people in Natchitoches at that point. In 67, moved down to Natchitoches, moved down to the riverbank. I was a student in the fall of 67, and it was a sight to see that house on a trailer, 18-wheeler trailer, come in, hitting the lights up here. Some of it falling off on the highway, and they pick it up the boards and stuff. And that riverbank going down then was not like it is now. It was a mess to get down the riverbank. They got it down the riverbank, moved it down to where it is right now, and they started putting it back together. That was in 1967. Over the years, records are cloudy exactly how title changed hands. But in 1984, Museum of Contents got legal hands of it, passed it to the Natchitoches Historic Foundation. So Natchitoches Historic Foundation owns the Rock House. But one thing we went out of bad track, we kept thinking, well, if it's a house, you ought to have a title of the house like all of us have titles to our houses. Well, no. Title of your house, the title of my house sits on land that's a part of that house, so it's an immovable piece of property. So you have to have title to it. You can't move it. That's not the Rock House. It's movable. In fact, we own the house, but the city owns the land. So we have to have a little working agreement. But we have possession of the house. Now, in 1967, after it was moved, the house was used for many different reasons. Art gallery, retail stores, all kind of stuff. 2016, big flood downtown. Hayne River came up. We got 2 feet into the house. Now, understand, the Rock House is full of bouchage. All the walls are bouchage. Well, you put 2 feet of water up the bottom of the bouchage wall, you kind of melt it. It's all melted down. So it became a problem. In 2019, I was a part of the NHF, and several of us got to talking and said, well, what are we going to do with the Rock House? Well, we'll give it to the city. Well, the city didn't want the Rock House. Well, what are we going to do with it? So me, Hillary sitting right over here, 2 or 3 of us said, well, let's just get busy and restore the Rock House. So that's when we started the restoration. We partnered with the Cane River Waterways Commission, and we could get to their money. Now, the reason we get to their money is their money is spent on Cane River. Now, do understand, people say, well, it's nice that the Rock House is on the banks of the Cane River. No, it's not. It's in the Cane River. It's in the bed of the Cane River. And I'll tell you a moment ago when we started construction how this became a real problem we had to solve. When you go downtown, the river, 2 river banks, one is Front Street, look on the other side, that street over there, that's the banks of Cane River. When you go down that hill, that $5 million riverfront we have, it's in the banks, it's in the bed of the Cane River. Now, if you're curious about that, remember when they built a stage for the renovation? They had to drive 19-foot pine pilings where that stage is. They shook up all the pavers on Front Street, driving them in there. And they still never got really down to bedrock. There's no bedrock down there. It's all sediment. So that's where we built the house. Now, that's the story of the Rock House. Now, let me share, not my insight, but here's my feeling. Here's a man, there's a carpenter. Put yourself in his shoes. He lived 62 years as a slave. His life was controlled as a slave. Got his freedom. He's a carpenter. I don't know if you've done much studying in history, but carpenters in 1798 were just as valuable as carpenters are today. They were sought after. They made good money. He could have gone down the river to New Orleans. He could have gone to Jackson. He could have gone to Vicksburg, Natchez. He could have gone lots of places and made lots of money. He didn't do it. He moved over just a few feet on vacant land and built his house. His house wasn't even finished till he made the money in 1802 to go buy his wife's freedom, to move her to that house with him. He stayed right here in our neighborhood, mind your countryside, built his house, and went and got his wife's freedom to live right there. A little bit later, he had to borrow the money in 1812 from a twire for his daughter. Bought his daughter's freedom to live in that house. He had his wife and daughter. Now, I said one time about the American dream. Somebody said, well, the American dream's dead. I immediately went to Googled it. In 1974, Gallup said 74% of the Americans believe in the American dream, so I don't know it's quite dead. But here's a man, like many of us, that got his freedom. He was a freed man. The Rock House was not built on plantation land. It was not built by slaves. It was not built for slaves to live in at all. The house was built by a man for his family. And that's where it is, right there. And I think that's the story of the Rock House that a lot of people don't know. Now, right now, if you go down there, well, we've dug it up now, but there's a plaque in front that said 3 freed men of color on it. I don't think many people read that. Everybody, not just certain groups of people. I think most of Natchitoches does not know that story. And I think that's one of the best stories. Now, this house, with this design, the Natchitoches Historic Foundation is adaptively restoring a circa 1790s house built post on sill, not in ground, post on sill, French Creole in 1803 by a freed man of color. And that's what we had. That's our story down there. And we need to tell that story. That's a great story. Next point is, that's our house. That's our house. Steve and I were talking, and he and I all agreed, it's not a race thing at all. It's part of our history. That's everybody in this town, that's our house. Now, when we got into it, and Hillary knows we all said the same thing, that we don't want to do it like other houses have been restored. Look around Natchitoches. We got huge houses, plantations everywhere. You can't go in them. They're all locked up. You can rent one. They'll rent you one for a wedding for $1,500 or $800 or $900. Down at NHF building, right next to the fire station, many times I've stood on that porch out front, and people walk by and said, well, we're here for the fireworks tonight, but where can we go in an old house? None. There's none. Now, we have one at Prudent Rookie House. They are open Sunday afternoon once a month. But as far as just being open to the public, so we all agreed. I keep pointing to Hillary. She's part of this agreement that we're going to do this in a way that when we finish, we're going to open the house to the public. And we're going to have to figure out a way to do it. And the third part of my snapshot on the house, I'll tell you how we're going to do it. Let me tell you the second part of my snapshot of the house is, what are we doing? What are we doing? If you've driven down there, we got tractors, and we got front-end loaders, and we got people moving dirt. We're changing the house. The house originally, as you saw it on the riverbank, was perpendicular to the river and faced up towards the stage. But what people don't realize, when they renovated the riverbank, they only did 2/3 of it. 1/3 of it they didn't finish. That was from the boathouse to the end behind Maglio's, down by Beaujardin. That's never been finished. They just stopped. So we got in and started looking around the house. First place, we decided about the bouchage walls. Every wall in that house is bouchage. People, bouchage is clay, primarily moss, sometimes deer hair. Every wall in that house. Well, the problem with it, if you have an outside wall that's bouchage, the rain's going to hit it, it's going to melt it. So we had to cover the outside walls. So we chose to go with an 8-foot veranda all the way around the house. Now, if you're curious about French Creole, there are 3 segments of French Creole architecture. One is called Cajun French Creole, down as you would think around Lafayette and New Iberia there. We had a big overhang in the front, short overhang at each end. There's a New Orleans French Quarter Creole. Those are all French Creole houses, but you don't see a big overhang. They didn't have any overhang on the street side. They built a house right out the sidewalk. The overhang was on the inside. That's why when you go behind all those walls, they're so beautiful down there. That's French Creole. But you get to the rural country, like we are, you had verandas all the way around the house. Why? To cool the house and to protect the bouchage walls. So we chose to go that route. When I said to you we did adaptive restoration, what I mean is we don't have any as-built plans for the house. There was no plans we could go back to. So we had to do a lot of reading, a lot of studying for what to do. So we took the house, we're going to turn it so that it faces the river. So it faces the river, we've got to back it up against that hill over there. That hill is the bank of Front Street. And we need to get about 8 feet above the level of that water to protect us from flooding again. So that's what we're in process of right now. Now, as we started digging the foundation for that, guess what happened? The water started coming this way, not going this way. The more we dig a hole, turn around, come back, the shovel full of dirt filled. So we had seepage from down under, that's the riverbed. So we had to stop everything. Right now, I was down there today. I go down there every day. The rock house, where we're going to place the rock house has 4 levels of concrete under it to protect seepage water coming up under the rock house to make it all get out of shape. Now, the rock house where it is right now, the walls are not plumb. You know, we got sills that lean over. The sill that the wall studs, it's all busted up. It's down to mud. We don't know what's going to happen. Now, we can move the house. So we're going to get it up off the ground. We're going to move it, and we're going to back it up and set it down on this foundation we're building. The foundation's plumb. Now, every time we all meet, our steering committee, Hillary's asking, or somebody's asking, well, what's going to happen? Well, moving is not going to be the problem. The problem is going to be the foundation's plumb and the house is not. So when we set the house on the foundation, we don't know what's going to happen to it. So that's kind of some of our construction. Now, part of this is we want to move everything modern out of the house and put it into a support building. And that support building will have restrooms, it'll have air conditioning, mechanical stuff. So as much as possible. Now, the house is going to look just like it did in 1803. That's how we're going to furnish it. And we're going to have it open on weekends. Now, that's really, and all this stuff I'm telling you is in that book that I gave you. You can read back through it at your leisure and go back over it. Quick last third part is what do we do now? When we started planning this, we had a meeting in February of 2020. We must have had about 45 people at that meeting. Every preservation group in Natchitoches was there. Everybody tell us, do this, do that. I've got the minutes of that meeting. They spent 90% of that meeting, all these experts saying, the United States is full of little houses like this. They're everywhere. They've been restored. But what's happened is once they're restored, they start breaking down. They're not open. They can't sustain them. So they don't have a money stream to take care of the house. Well, people, this project's a $2 million project. I don't want us to put all that money into it, and in 2 or 3 years, it breaks and we can't repair it. So we need a money stream to it. So we started thinking, how can we do that? So we need sustenance to be able to sustain the house and take care of it. We looked over at the retaining wall. We backed the house up against that hill. We've got to put a retaining wall to hold that hill so it won't come down at the back of the house. Well, started thinking, no thought. The most visited museum in D.C. is the Vietnam Wall. When you go there, you know what you see if you've never been? You see 59,000 names on that wall. That's all it's there. They're names. They're about battles and all that. But they're just names, all for all that granite. Well, started talking to the people at Campbell Monuments, and over at Leesville, they have granite much like we're going to have. And they put members of World War II. You can put the names on that wall. Those walls are filled with names. So we started looking. The Vietnam Wall is 5,300ths of an inch in size. We can put 6,200ths of an inch. So what we decided to do is take that retaining wall and put 15 granite slabs across the back of it, behind the rock house, not the front, behind against that wall, and then allow people to donate $150 for each name. And you can put your name, you put a couple, you put an organization, you can put Natchitoches Parish School Board if you want to, so that we're all a part of preservation. And we want to use that wall to honor preservationists in Natchitoches, not just those living, but past. I asked someone the other day, I said, don't you think Some Pratt Willer's name should be on that wall? I said, who's that? Somebody else said, who's Maxine Sutherland? These are all names in our history. There's a lot more of them. We need to put their names on that wall too. And we need to make it so that everybody can be a part of history. I cannot find that house restored anywhere. If you can find it, go Google it. Please share it with me. There are 4 post-in-ground houses. One of them is the Badden Rock House down the river. There's one at St. Francisville and 2 in Missouri. Those are posts in ground. This is a post on beam, post on sill, different style. There's none out there. I've looked through it. In Louisiana, there's 836 slave quarters that's been preserved. Plantations everywhere, but not this house. This is a unique house. And I'm firmly convinced that the story needs to get out. I think you all need to know the story. We need to ask you for help. Now, I'm going to ask you for help in just a moment. And it's not going to be money, Billy, so everybody can relax. We got our money for the restoration. We're tickled to death with it. Where we need help is for you to tell the story. We need to tell principals, teachers, children need to know the story. We want to make sure that everybody gets excited, and we're going to ask you to be a part of this wall and invite you to put your name on the wall. Put your children's name on the wall. I think Hillary's going to put hers and all her family right under it. My two daughters are going to be right behind me on that wall. And Steve said he's going to be that wall. If we could put enough names on the wall, it's going to produce about $650,000. And we don't need to spend on restoration. We're going to move that over, get that invested. We think we can pull off about $45,000 a year. That means we can take care of that house. If 2 years from now the air conditioner goes out on Friday, I can put it in Monday. No problem. We will have the money to take care of it. When people go through it and they dirt it up, we'll have people clean it. And we're going to have enough money to hire guides that every weekend that house is open. And no ticket, I don't charge tickets, it's open. I want to have people there that the principal of one of your schools, her third grade class wants to come down and go through the house because they want to be in the house where the real story is. Well, I want people there to open the house for them. So that's what we're going to do. So if I took longer than I should have, Dr. Eli, I apologize. I'm talking as fast as I can. But everything I just explained to you is a snapshot. But if you're looking at that handout, all the snapshot is enlarged in there. How you can help, the story to it, the construction to it. And I'll be glad to start right now and answer any questions and make this promise to you. If there's a group somewhere that we can talk to and tell this story, just Hillary and I talking about it, we got us a PowerPoint and we'll saddle up and we're gone. I don't care where it is. Met with Stephen over here, and we're going to meet with a group of ministers. Going to be invited over to their NHF house next Thursday, and I'm going to tell them, Steve knows what I'm telling you all. If one of their churches needs me to come talk to them and tell them about that wall, we're there. This story needs to get out, the real story, and what we're doing.
We do have our third and fifth graders that do make the walk downtown every year, so maybe we can include that in the route.
See, we have buses coming through town. I predict within 2 or 3 years, this rock house is going to be what's going to be on billboards. Wait till you get a chance to go through that, because I have the picture of the projected finish of the house in that pamphlet you have. All of it's in there. You have time to pour through it, and you can dig all the details out.
Do y'all have a projected finish date?
Right now, it's a moving target, but the last target was June 23rd. We have a big construction meeting this morning, and I think it's August the 8th. And it really depends on weather. It really depends on weather. And us finding material we can use. Right now, we can't find flooring. I know it sounds crazy, but we don't use new flooring. We use flooring from 1803. That's hard to find. So but right now, middle summer.
Well, Dr. Barron, thank you very much for your colorful presentation. We really enjoyed it.
Okay, now that I finished talking, y'all can look in that packet. I apologize for being a teacher in me. Can't get away from it.
Very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
So the next group we have up is Mind Over Matters, which is a local grassroots effort. And I'm going to let these ladies tell us everything they're doing. We have your video queued up. So just Mr. Cozad, if you want to show the video.
I'm Cindy Allen. I've been a counselor in private practice for almost 10 years here in Natchitoches. During that time, and especially since COVID, I have been struck by the number of people who need mental health services. This increased demand for mental health services is not just something that's happening in Natchitoches, it's a national trend. In June of 2020, halfway through that first year of the pandemic, the rates of anxiety, depression, substance abuse, anxiety-related symptoms, and major thoughts about suicide were almost double what would have been expected before the pandemic. The overall number of adults living with mental illness in 2020 was 20%, 1 in every American. What's even more worrying is the fact that less than half of those people received treatment. One reason for the lack of treatment is that some people are not even aware that resources exist. If they are aware that they exist, they often don't know where to find them and don't know how to pay for them. It was with all these issues in mind that Mind Over Matters was born. Mind Over Matters is a one-stop resource for information on mental health services geared toward our community. Mind Over Matters will be a one-stop resource for mental health information geared toward members of our community. Community members will be able to log onto our website and see videos and read about mental health issues that are important to them. They will also be able to see a detailed list of resources that correspond to the issues that they are concerned about. Another important aspect of Mind Over Matters will be the classes that we will be bringing into the community. Our plan is to find experts on issues such as conflict resolution, finances, parenting, yoga.
Hello, my name is Sue Ann Taylor, and I'm a registered nurse here at the hospital. I've been a nurse for 17 years, and I've worked in mental health for over 10 years. And one thing that we see whenever patients or family members of patients that aren't able to get mental health treatment or don't know where to go for mental health treatment in the early stages, whenever we can be really helpful. We can be helpful at all stages, but one thing we see is that, it gets more complex to treat. If you had a splinter in your finger or a wound or something like that, you wouldn't just leave it and let it get to an infected state before you would take care of that. And one thing a lot of people think is that mental health is not as important as your physical health is, but those two are intertwined. And even with diabetes, stress can affect your diabetes numbers, even if you eating and taking your medications the same exact way today as yesterday. And as you know, whenever you're depressed, sometimes you can either eat more or not eat as much, and that can affect those numbers for people with diabetes. The one thing that is so important is if you or a family member is having any issues with your mental health needs, that you try and get treatment earlier, because there's so many things that we can do to help patients and family members, and sometimes it's not always about medications. And we have resources such as therapy, lifestyle change recommendations that can do wonders for mental health.
My name is Erin Boyd. I have been working towards providing mental health services in the Natchitoches community for over 20 years. I currently work for Natchitoches Regional Medical Center. Mind Over Matters hopes to destigmatize mental health. We want people to be comfortable seeking help. We want people to seek help early and seek help when they need it before it becomes a complex issue. Mind Over Matters also wants to be a resource for local law enforcement, first responders, to make sure that when they're out in the field, they also have at their fingertips information and resources for people that they encounter. Mind Over Matters wants to partner with local agencies and corporations to bring this information to the public. We think it's important for everyone to be involved that wants to be involved. We've noticed when we have spoken about our goals and our hopes for Mind Over Matters, everyone has been so enthusiastic and they always want to help. They're willing to help. We see a trend across the board with professionals and organizations that they're really excited about this endeavor. Connection is an important goal for Mind Over Matters. We want to be sure and connect people with the resources they need. We want to make sure that the resources are quality and they're evidence-based. We want to make sure that the resources are local if needed, and whatever they need, we're hoping to provide through this resource. Another goal is to create wraparound information that will be beneficial to the community, whether it's parenting classes, financial information. We want to empower individuals, their whole self, as they move forward through life.
My name is Sarah Johnson. I worked in psychiatric mental health for about the last 3 years. I'm now a new psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and throughout my time in mental health, so many people have approached me, and it's that very familiar phrase, I don't know where to start. And it's either them trying to find help for themselves or for a family member they care immensely about. And so it's so important to me that people get the help that they need and what they're looking for. And Mind Over Matters offers that. It is a place where they can start. It's just a plethora of resources in the community that'll help them get in touch with the resources that fits their unique needs, mental health professionals, as well as mental health facilities. I think that Mind Over Matters, it's so necessary in the community because I just meet a lot of people who struggle with mental illness, and I kind of think, if we would have had this sooner and available and they were able to utilize it, how it would have changed the trajectory of their lives and just been beneficial to them when they needed it the most early on.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm Hillary Bennett, and in addition to my preservation efforts in the community, for the past over 14 years, I've been working with women and families that are suffering under the weight of addiction and substance abuse. So that's kind of my area of expertise that I bring to the project, but it is Cindy's brainchild, so I'm going to let her talk.
Hello, everybody. We're very happy to be in front of you guys. And as I explain the project a little more, you'll understand what I mean by that. But for those of you that don't know me, I'm Cindy Allen. I've lived in this community for 40 years. Came here when the Louisiana school opened. My husband and I came here to be a part of that. And I worked there for 40 years as a counselor. And after that, I started my private practice called Clarity Counseling. So it was in that 10 years that I have, I think, really found my true calling, something that means so much to me. And since I began, but especially since COVID, I have had so many people call me and say, I need help, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. And sometimes I'm able to take them, and sometimes I'm able to refer them. But often I realize that there's so many variations of what people need, and people often, they pay for them in different ways. So somebody's going to need Medicaid, and somebody's going to need Medicare, and somebody has private insurance. And so there's just, there are resources that we have. There are plenty of resources, but people don't know how to get in touch with them. And often they just don't even know that they're there. So what we want to do is to, one, educate our community on mental health. There's just a lot that people don't know, and I think we can do that through a website. But one of the other main things is to have those resources there, up there, so that people can go and find what they need. That's sort of the essence of the website. We also want to have classes out in the community to address a lot what's going on with our constituents. And I think one of the main pushes that we have is that we, as Mind Over Matters, wants to partner with as many people in our community as we can. We want to know what's going on and what each segment of the community needs. So I live on Williams Avenue, and, I have my church and my friends, and I know about my clients, but I may not know what the mental health needs are for everybody. And that's why we're partnering with as many people as we can in the community. And we're doing needs assessment to find out what it is that people need. What kind of mental health issues are you having? What are the stressors in your community? And those are the things that we want to target when we have our classes. We have met with, we started with Mayor Williams, and he's on board with us. And he sort of spoke for the community in general, but he gave me lots of other ideas of where to go. So we want to partner with, for example, you guys. You were one of the first on the list, because when I think about it, with all of the people in this room, you represent every child in our parish. You know what the mental health needs are, so we need to partner with you. And in fact, I would like, if I may, to ask each one of you to fill out a needs assessment for your constituents, to tell us what are the stressors, what are their needs, what's going on. Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Is it substance abuse? What are the stressors? Could it be, all the many things that we have? Some people find that it's media, but many other people find that just financial needs are the biggest problem, or feeling safe in your own community. That's a big problem for people. So I can't know that unless I get that information from you. So that's why we're asking as many people as we can to do a needs assessment. So some of the other people we're reaching out to, in addition to Mayor Williams, would be representatives from the Ben Johnson facilities, Boys and Girls Club, anybody on the council, the councilmen and women, people from NSU, from industries in town. We want to work with the ministerial representatives, with the library, the Concerned Citizens Association of Natchitoches, Rotary, Young Professionals Organization, Lions Club. All of these people, all of these organizations, we want to partner with, and we want you on our website, but we also want to be on your website, so that you can let other people know that we're out there and that we're willing to help. That's what we're after. So we've got a few minutes for questions.
Ms. Allen, if you would like us to fill out a questionnaire, if you could get it to Ms. Revels, and she could probably disseminate it through
Okay.
email. And
Well,
we
I would
could
like to
that.
do it online, if that would be okay. So may I send it to you, and you can email it to everyone? Thank you.
And
And I really hope that you'll fill it out, because you're the people. You know the kids. You know the parents. You know what's going on out there.
And I think we'd also, I know me personally would be interested to send it out to our teachers and staff to see, that's valuable information for us, but it's also valuable information for you. But also I know we're setting up a meeting with Ms. Ingram, because we do those assessments, those tier 1 assessments for all students. And so we can also tell you the themes that we're seeing in the juvenile area. I also want to tell y'all that, we have our beginning of the school year event where we give out backpacks, and we are kind of rebranding that, where you're still going to get your backpack, but you got to come in and do our little health and wellness and mental health fair. Y'all are, I'm taking this moment right now
We're
to
there.
invite y'all to that.
Yeah.
And then, Mr. Kozad's in the back. He runs our website. It's a simple little thing. Since y'all aren't a vendor, we don't have to worry about being fair to people. Y'all are just putting a resource. Y'all are just trying to help. So that's an easy thing we can put on the website.
Okay.
So are you working with other counseling agencies to do referrals?
Right now, we are just getting started, but that's who we want to partner with any other counseling agencies
Okay.
to get their information. One thing that we will do is we will advertise, if you will, each counselor, so that somebody, if you're looking for a counselor, you can go on the website and see a picture and see what their training is and what their specialties will be, and then you can call them or email them.
Ms. Pegaski, if I can speak to this, at one point during COVID, we were looking for something of this nature, and these exist as private companies that will do all this. It was gonna cost us $60,000 a year, and what it did was someone would put in their symptoms, tell your zip code, and it would say, here's the people who can help you. Now, oftentimes what it would do is say, they're in Shreveport, they're in Alexandria, these are people sometimes who don't even have access to vehicles. What this will do is, for us, even as teachers, principals, when we have a student in crisis, we can give the parent and say, here's this link, what insurance do you have or not have, and here's your resources. For us, it's a super powerful tool, because oftentimes, I mean, Mr. Nicholson can probably attest, as a principal, you may know of something, or you may not. And some principals know more, and some teachers know more, but every staff member knowing this is a one-stop shop is super powerful for us
Yeah.
advising parents.
Yeah,
Will you offer virtual counseling also for those who,
well, what we will do is to connect you with websites that can help you do that, and sort of monitor them and maybe figure out the ones that we think would be the best.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have some online, because I don't know that there are enough counselors right now. Ms. Dorothy, did I answer your question? Do you have an agency
did.
you wanna make
I
sure
do.
we connect with?
I do have, one that does,
Okay.
family and, individual counseling for youth. That's here locally. And think, in fact, I don't know if they come before the board, but, at some point, I'm gonna ask them to come in. They, work with family and individual.
Okay,
counsel.
okay. Yeah, and when we
Counseling.
launched
For
the
young people and the whole family.
when we launched the website, and we hope that will be the end of April, one of the things that we will do is have a place where anyone who wants to be listed on the website can contact us, and then we can put their information up there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the website, are y'all gonna make sure y'all have special counselors for disability, for adults that has disabilities? Even some that's not even, I'm gonna use my son, nonverbal. So what are you gonna do in a situation like that if you have someone that's nonverbal?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard to find somebody.
That's why I'm here, to hear that kind of thing. We'll have to do some research to find out who that would be.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is that we would be a one-stop shop essentially. So think everything from grief support to local AA meetings, Narcotics Anonymous support for families, Alzheimer's support. We are gonna be, all you have to think of essentially is Mind Over Matters. We will have all of the national hotlines listed for crisis calls. So again, you don't have to Google that. You can go straight to us, and it's a one-stop shop for all the mental health and wellness resources for Natchitoches.
And it sounds like it's gonna evolve and the sky's the limit, so when things like that get brought up, you research it, you find it,
Yes.
and it gets put on there, and probably,
whole new
First few months, it's just-
whole new avenue?
yeah.
Yes.
you go.
Ms. Harvey, that's why it's so important that you fill those needs assessments out,
I
because
will.
that'll make us aware,
Yeah.
that that's a need.
I met a drug counselor at a meeting. I'm a member of the Natchitoches Coalition on Homelessness, and we put people in hotels temporarily that are homeless due to being evicted. It could be a financial issue, or it could be a natural disaster, or some other issue. We place them in hotels until they can transition. We refer them for counseling, housing, and other agencies that assist them with clothing, furniture, things of that nature. We have a local agency we work with, which is St. Vincent de Paul, Dan Van. But we run into situations where there are a lot of people that have mental issues, and we really can't assist them because the hotels won't take them because they're considered a liability. But we do try to do referrals, if there's a family member involved, so that they can get some assistance. That's a major problem. We have a lot of people walking the streets that have mental health issues and they can't get any assistance. And what I don't understand is why we have the coroner here that does referrals for people that have mental health issues, and they might, I think they only do referrals if they have become a danger to themselves or other people. But you have people that are walking the streets, that are living and sleeping in the streets here in the city. And they don't actually have a place to go. So I think that's one part of the issue we need to look at. But let me say this, and let you move further. I am also the National Coalition on Homelessness. We also are part of a community meeting. We work with the Probation and Parole Office. We have a representative, and she hosts along with our organization. We have various agencies, and one is CADA, CAD, out of Shreveport, and they work with alcoholism and drug abuse. They had some representatives there. We have representatives from agencies locally, DeSoto Parish, Shreveport, that provide all type of services people not even aware of. But they come, we had a roundtable conversation earlier this month, because it's on, we do it on a Tuesday, Thursday morning, it's at 10 o'clock at the library here, NSU Library. And I'll definitely give you all the information. We'd love for you all to
We have
come.
started attending,
Okay,
and, yeah, we're excited.
Great.
Some of the information that gets sent out, like all the homeless shelters in the state, that's exactly the kind of thing that we would put on our website.
okay. And I'm sure you can get some information from other agencies that can
Yes,
provide
yes,
some assistance.
that's.
Perhaps we can look at the legality of putting a hot link on our website that will refer to you.
So we're working a register of all the social service agencies here and around in the surrounding
My first
areas.
inclination is as long as we're equitable to all those and include everyone, but I will, as always, check with the lawyers. But I think this is one of those things that probably started out as a small idea, embryonic, and I don't know if y'all know what y'all have got yourself into, because I think it's gonna, I think it's gonna be great, and it's gonna evolve, and
Well, we're so excited. We have actually hired a production company, and we met with them online today, and we're really excited.
we'll just keep us informed and tell us what we need to do. I think we're
Okay.
excited to partner.
I'm gonna go over here and get this lady's name and card and whatever I need so I can get.
Ladies, thank y'all.
Yes, thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'd like to know also from Ms. Ingram, whatever happened to the program that we had where we had the social workers and things within our system, and we never got any data on what.
So it's ongoing. In fact, I got a report card on it 2 days ago. It's called the Aware Grant, and she is actually she'll be doing out-of-state travel for y'all for next month, because she'll be attending the National Aware Conference, and we've hired all the social workers, and there is a possibility that it'll expand next year, but she can provide y'all, if not next month, the month after, with all the data for this year for what she's done with the Aware Grant.
I don't think that's the one I'm referring to.
Okay.
I think it's the one we had social workers that was
Although,
out of another
okay.
agency, which I didn't think it was a good idea in the first place.
Oh, I know what
That
you're,
was under the last.
That's right.
I know what you're talking, yeah,
That's right.
yes, sir.
And so, but we never got any type of data or anything on that.
I am vaguely familiar, but somewhat familiar with what you're speaking
Just
of.
don't want
So,
none of that again.
no, sir, no, sir. So, with that being said, Mr. Benefield, that is the end of my superintendent report, but as I asked you prior, I was hoping that we could move the ITEP discussion, because of their needs, to the next item, if you're
Let's do it.
amiable to that. So we have with us Alliance Compressors, and I also think we have Ms. Lyles from the Chamber and the Natchitoches Economic Development Alliance.
So I've got a little presentation I'll go through, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the ITEP. But thank you guys for your time this afternoon. I appreciate you guys listening to us, but just a couple of things about Alliance compressors, if you'll go to the next slide. So we've been in business for about 25 years now. We have 600 employees or so, 577 of those are hourly, about 83 salary folks. We've made 32 million compressors in that time frame. Think about the number of air conditioners that fills, right? That's a lot of units. We have a full assembly manufacturing process in that building where we assemble the compressor, we paint the compressor, we have a final process where we actually oil it, test it to make sure it functions properly for our customer. We have a proprietary scroll machining operation in that area that holds tolerances on our parts to less than 1 micron. And just to kind of put that in perspective, a human hair is about 25 microns. So it's a really, really technical process, and it's really cool to see that. We have calorimeter, sound testing, we have a single pack service packaging area. We make about 8,000 compressors a day. We have 2 10-hour shifts running 4 days a week. We have in assembly, in the scroll machining department, we actually added a shift this past year because we needed some extra capacity. So we went from a 2 10-hour 4-day week to a 3 8-hour 5-day week and added 51 jobs to that plant in the last year. So we're continuing to grow. If you'll go to the next slide, please. So just want to talk a little bit about how we support our employees. So at 660 employees, of those employees, 80% of those folks live in Natchitoches proper or the parish of Natchitoches. So we're a locally manned group of people here, right? We have a $38 million annual wage package that gets spent in Natchitoches Parish and the surrounding area. In 2022, January of 2022, we were able to give our hourly folks a 14% wage increase. The largest wage increase we've ever given in the history of that factory. Our temporary starting wages were increased by $4 per hour, right? So we've made a significant investment in our people. We have a full service cafe. We have a climate controlled work environment. We keep it around 72 degrees year round in that building to keep our people comfortable. We have tuition reimbursement. We have internships and things like that. We want to grow those folks in our factory so they'll stay with us and be with us for the long haul. That's what we want to do. Next slide. So we also support our community in a lot of ways. A lot of donations. We're a big partner with the Boys and Girls Club, restarting that program this year. A title sponsor of Park Natchitoches, A+ Coalition. We've donated hundreds of backpacks to local groups for the start of the school year to make sure folks are prepared for that first day of school. We partner with local schools for manufacturing day tours. We have high school students that come through our factory and see what manufacturing is all about. Right? We're a good partner with NSU, Jazz Fest, the Lakeview Culinary Arts Kitchen. A couple of years ago, we were able to give those guys a little bit of money to help them get that moving forward. That was a fun one. Yes. Sports Hall of Fame, Natchitoches Regional Medical Center, and I won't read all those things, but some of the coolest things that we get to do is we have employees that come to us, hey, my son's on the basketball team. He needs some money for travel or for a jersey, or the team needs some help doing something. We'll get those checks written for those folks to support them because we want those guys to be successful in what they do in their futures as well. Next slide. So just kind of give you a little bit of our history here. It's been a journey over the last 25 or so years for this factory, and as you can see in that green and blue bar chart in the background there, we've made a lot of compressors over the years. Started out as a single assembly line that has grown to 2 assembly lines over 2 shifts. We've added scroll machining. We have 8 machining centers in that department. And we finally have hit a wall with capacity. We can't make enough compressors to keep our customers in business, so we've run a lot of overtime in the last 3 or 4 years. And if you guys have talked to any of our employees, they'll probably tell you how tired they are because we're working 50 and 60-hour weeks. So we have finally made the decision to invest in that factory and add another assembly line. So we're going to make a $40 million investment in that factory. I think that announcement came out a little while back. That will begin operationally about November of this year, pending equipment delivery times and that sort of thing. But the construction process has already started. You'll go to that next slide. So it's going to be kind of modeled after what we call the next generation assembly process. It's a little bit different than what we do today. It'll have a little more automation. It will be more changeover friendly. as the energy standards change with the government and SEER ratings and those kind of things, our product has become much more proliferated. So what was once 1 or 2 models is now 800 to 900 different models that we have to manufacture. And changing over those lines becomes an inefficiency issue. It slows the line down. So this new design line helps us overcome a lot of that stuff. It's going to add 78 new jobs. That's pretty significant, right? 750,000 additional compressors will come out of that factory on an annual basis, and we're going to invest about $40 million to do that. We have started construction. If you've driven by the plant in recent history, you'll see some of the construction going on the south end of the building. That we're having to create a trucking lane to put a full-service receiving dock in that area. Our receiving dock currently is on the west side of our building, and where that dock's at today is where Line 3 is going to sit. So we're having to completely blow up our building inside and move things around to get that new line in place. So why am I here today? I wanted to introduce to you guys, this board, the industrial tax exemptions that will be coming before your groups here in the next few days or week or so. So these were both approved by the State of Louisiana Board of Commerce and Industry yesterday morning. So you should be getting formal notification within the next few days. I don't know exactly what that timing is on that process.
We got it yesterday morning.
Awesome. Can you go to the next slide, please? So here's what that means for the school board, for school districts. So on the right side of this chart, that orange bar, that is our current 2022 annual tax bill for the school district of school district number 9. That's what we paid in taxes last year. On the left side, that $56,000 is the average annual 80% exemption that we're asking for as part of this expansion program. So this does not take away from that tax bill on the right. It actually will add to that tax bill on the right. So that $14,000 is the 20% tax paid on the exemption. So 80% of the investment we don't pay taxes on. 20% of that investment we do pay taxes on. So that $14,000 over the life of this abatement, I believe it's 10 years, would be additional tax dollars that the school board will receive as part of this process, if you guys approve this thing, right? And
so it's going to increase to 190,000. That's what you're saying.
yes, yes. And these abatements, they save our business money. They save our business about $60,000 a year, right? And we take that money and we put it back in the plant. We put it back in investing in our people. We're able to give our folks continuous cost of living and merit increases to make sure we keep up with inflation. We're able to invest back in our plant and continue to make our plant better. We've in the last 5 years, we put in 4 new large air conditioning systems to turn the air over inside that building. We've replaced all of our internal lighting with LED lighting to brighten it up and actually save some energy dollars. So we continue to invest in those things. And what I'm asking for today is your support when this does come before this board here in the next few, I believe it's next week is when this will officially come before the board.
Quick question. You said 78 additional jobs from this project. Is there an estimate of how much more salary that's going to equal, which then would obviously
I can get that number for you. I can get that number for you.
I do recall that it was higher than the average wage.
Yeah, so General Assembly today is not going to be General Assembly on this new line because of the technology there. We're actually going to pay a higher wage for the folks that work this line, so I'll have to get that number for you.
And I only ask because 78 more jobs, say they're, I don't know, 30, 40,000, that's new money into the economy, I imagine. So.
That
many
30 to
contractors?
40,000 is probably a good thing.
How many contractors do you have on site now building this new line?
Right now, I think we have 2. Hand construction, I can't recall the name of the other.
I'm talking about actual head count, boots on the
Goodness.
ground.
I'll have to get back with
They're all staying here in hotels?
Yes.
And they're all eating at McDonald's, hopefully, or somewhere. Mr. Wascom will be very happy with you.
Absolutely.
Chick-fil-A or whatever.
Absolutely. So what other questions might you have for me today?
Just to clarify though, because I think there was some question when I put this on the agenda, you are asking for 2 separate.
Yes, they are 2 separate ITEPs. The one on the left is the big one, that is the Line 3 expansion. The one on the right, the ITE 503, if you could go back one slide. So that one was a $2 million investment. You know, we talk about putting money back into the business. So part of that $2 million was a new lighting system, a new air conditioning system, a new fire alarm system, and some other equipment purchases that we did. So, but the same thing kind of goes along with it. So we're asking for a 80% exemption on that $2 million, which is about $3,200 over the life of this investment. It's small potatoes compared to what the Line 3 investment really looks like. But I wanted to make sure you saw both of those today. I didn't want to surprise anybody with that, so.
Board members, do we have any questions?
Your hourly rate of pay, what is that?
So our hourly rates start out at $15.60 and top out at $18.50, I think, for our General Assembly operator. So we have various levels of skill that we have. Our maintenance folks can make up to $30 an hour in some cases. Many of our offline assembly operators make $20 to $25 an hour, depending on what their role is. Our night shift differential, I believe, is at $2 an hour now for our night shift folks.
Really? $2. So do you rotate, or they're straight nights?
We do not. We have fixed shifts. We do.
Okay, so that's your deal, okay. That's your draw.
So the third shift is more robotics, you say?
This third assembly line will have
More automated?
it'll have more automation than we have today, but it's going to add about 35 to 37 people per shift. So it'll be a 2-shift operation. So that 78 people will be across 2 shifts.
Right, and so these people will probably be ones who are being promoted.
That's the
on
intention.
inwards.
We're going to give, exactly, Mr. Harris, we're going to give those guys that are already with us an opportunity to bid on those higher paying roles, rather than just bring new people into that line. We want to give those tenured folks the opportunity to go run that new equipment. We want folks to drive the new car, right?
Right.
I think a lot of folks are asking that question, when can I go join and learn that new process? So
Right.
we're really excited about it. Okay,
Board members, any other questions?
awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time this afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you again here in, I believe, in about a week. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
And
Ms.
thank
Palmer,
y'all for supporting our schools.
Ms. Palmer, let us apologize for starting your report a little early.
Yeah, and that concludes my longest superintendent report ever.
Go ahead, Ms. Palmer.
It was good, though.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I'm sorry, are you?
Yes. Hey,
Oh, I'm sorry, we've already skipped a whole section, golly.
And just a heads up, Mr. Walscomb is still at the LASSAFAP conference, and Miss Page is at the personnel conference. So they asked if they could deliver their reports Thursday.
no, I'm not gonna.
Mr. Shirley.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Good.
I've got a pretty good list of things that I want to kind of give updates on. Some of y'all have already asked questions before we got started, so I want to include those. As of today, at about noontime, Lakeview, I got updates on their dish machine for the culinary arts. They are starting next week to do the measuring to build the hood. We couldn't order one fast enough, so we actually found a company out of Shreveport that's actually coming in to build us a hood. They will do all the roof penetrations, the whole nine, so I don't have to get another contractor to come in and do the roof work, which we were having issues with. So I think this is going to move this a little bit faster. So that's supposed to start. He said he'll be here between Tuesday and Thursday of next week to get that started. The electrical is done in the gator hole for the new hot wrap that's actually going to go around the piping in the gator hole. Store equipment is looking to do that next week. They will be actually wrapping the pipe and trying to freeze-proof that. Fairview Alpha, we actually got our new treatment tank installed last week. The chemical company is actually supposed to be here starting Monday to get that up and going. That's going to take them several days to get their pumps installed and everything done, so we can get that process done. 13 leaks so far in the last few weeks at this school. it's things that need to be done, and it's gonna be a pretty good-sized project when we get down to the nuts and bolts. First thing is, we need to stop the bleeding, which that's what this tank is for. Next step is gonna be replacing pipe to get our infrastructure back. We've got a long way to go. We're just scratching the surface of what's to come.
So can we have that information maybe by next, April?
By the April board meeting,
Because
I'll do as much digging as I can, yeah.
yeah, because at the end of the day, we will have the treatment plant up and going. So then we're gonna have to ultimately
Well,
change
I'm
those
gonna give you an estimate right now of the repairs that we have made since the freeze. About $48,000. And I still have 100 foot of 2-inch pipe that we need to replace, that we actually have valved off to some classrooms that are currently not being used, that we had leaks on, that we just valved that off Monday. So I have another 100 foot of pipe that I need to go out there and replace soon. Right now, it's not causing an issue, but if we have any future growth, it will cause an issue. So yes, just in 3 months, 4 months, $48,000 worth of damage. That's pretty extensive.
Right.
And this is just the leak itself and repairing these leaks. I'm still having to repair ceilings and knock out cinder block walls, and we still have to replace those, repair tile walls. So yes, it's fixing to be an extensive thing, and I'll try to dig down and get you the numbers.
Basically, it's gonna cost us more money if we keep on
Yes, sir.
doing the same thing over and over again.
Yes, sir. We're throwing good money after bad. If we keep trying to Band-Aid this issue, it's eventually gonna eat us up. Yeah, so we definitely have to look at it as a bigger scale and check into it and see what we need to do.
So we don't have any insurance to cover that?
Not when you talk about that particular situation. That's what BRE is there for, and I think that's what we're gonna wind up doing.
The free, no, this is not from the freeze. This is from our water system over years and years of not being taken care of. Yeah, and not on our end. This is the water system itself. So it's,
Fairview Union Water System?
yes.
You talked to them? I mean, I'm
Yes, and yeah, I have, and their test results are perfect.
Okay. When, can I ask how long it's been since you've talked to them?
Maybe 2 months.
Okay.
It was the last time I touched base with them.
I
Yeah.
know they had
At the
somebody
end of the
else.
day,
Yeah.
we can't make them do what ultimately we have to cover our own
Yes, sir.
rear ends.
Yes, sir. Until, like I say, I've had 2 companies actually do the testing. And because I was concerned that the first company kind of gave me false data because it was so bad. Yeah, I was kind of thinking, yeah, that's no, sir. I had another reputable company come in and I got the same data. But I've seen all their test results and they're using a company, and I don't know which one of us is, I don't know which one of us is wrong, but one of us is wrong, and if it is perfect there, I don't understand what's happening between the time it leaves there and all the homes. Because if you look at the churches out there that actually has been remodeled in the last year, 90% of it is because of failed copper piping.
Wow.
So it's a bigger issue than what we know.
Smoking gun.
Yes. Okay, and now to NJH. We're having the issues with the lighting. Okay, I've received word, 4 weeks, we should receive the poles and lights. But the contractor that's doing it, I just got off the phone with him earlier. He has agreed to get some temporary lights that he has and try to get those up there immediately. He said hopefully by the end of next week, he will have us some temporary lighting until those poles come in.
That's great.
So we're hoping by next Friday, he'll be done with that project as far as the temporary side. And then when the material that we've got ordered, when it gets here, then we'll go through and put up the new poles and the new LED lighting. And he's agreed to help us out with that and try to get us something there to make us feel a little safer.
Is there an update on the ball field at Marthaville and the lighting there?
Actually, that's one of my things I was going to get to here in just a second. But since you brought it up, actually, they ordered a track lift that has the tracks on it, kind of like a bulldozer. That field is still holding a pretty good bit of water in right field. The one in center, when they get this 80-foot boom lift, they will be able to actually access it from behind. So they will be on the rocks. Then the right field pole will be the only two we have left. If it dries out, that track lift will be a lot better and we will not bury it like they did the last time. Sand and dirt has been brought in and there will be more to come. That's going to be fixed. We repaired all the restrooms out there this week. New toilets, new sinks, the whole nine. So they're hoping to have that lift next week, but somebody actually, they don't make a whole lot of those. So the rental company that actually has it, it's on rent, and until they get it back, they can't get it. If it dries up and we can get the one with wheels on it out there, it'll be probably faster, but it may cause a lot more damage. So we're kind of, I just got off the phone with them. I think me and Mr. Wascom both talked to him Monday, and they're just waiting on the lift.
So we're thinking next week,
Yes.
timeline-wise?
I'm hoping, but he said hopefully Monday. So if he gets it Monday, then they will be back started. But the lights that are there are working. I went out there, and when I went to repair the toilets and everything, we turned them on. So the new lights work, and the old lights that are still there work. So it can be used if it needs to be used.
Okay.
We just
The
don't
issue,
have
they said there was some equipment down on the field itself that the contractors had left when they were working on the lights.
Actually, the fields are clean, except for some trash. I had a dumpster actually brought out there before we went on break.
Okay.
So we're taking our tractor out there, and the things that were left, we're doing away with that next week.
Sounds good.
So everything should be good to go from here on out.
Okay.
Natchitoches Central, we received the fire marshal occupancy for both culinary arts and the old field house. Went through some pretty extensive stuff with them over the last couple of weeks, but we're good to go with that. The last thing that I have for you guys is the dish machines that AutoChlor is actually putting in all the schools. We're moving right on along. Our electricians are through with the wiring at most of them. I want to say 2 has already went in, and that was Weaver and Magnet. And they're actually looking to put the one in East tomorrow. We actually had our stainless steel countertops brought in, so hopefully that'll be done tomorrow, and they will continue right on along. Does anybody else have any questions about anything?
I see at NPTCC, you had indicated calling outside vendor to look at the security of the building.
Yes, ma'am.
And what's it?
Austin Fire met with Mr. Benjamin yesterday, and what?
He wants a second.
Yeah, it's a second buzzer. But what the issue is it's 2 separate wings. So if there's no pipeline really between those 2 buildings, and if we put that buzzer on that door, we're trying to figure out how we could connect it to the main office. If not, the standalone systems that we have put in, then there will have to be somebody there that can see a TV screen on the inside of that building in order to let somebody in.
But it'd be easier if the secretary in the one building
In one building can control them both. So that's what we're dealing with right now. But they did go see Mr. Benjamin again yesterday, and we're trying to get around that with maybe some Wi-Fi access and different things. So there's several things going on, but that is being taken care of.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Shirley.
All right.
Ms. Hicks.
I haven't been nearly as busy as he has been. We had a nice claim for the month of January, a little over $345,000. Our average daily participation for breakfast is holding steady at 40%, and we're hovering around 80% for lunch, so good, healthy numbers there. We're still looking for our 3rd round of supply chain assistance funds. They have not given us the date of the release nor the amount. I'm hopeful, the last two have been a little over $100,000, so I'm hopeful that this one will be similar. We still haven't received word on our state equipment grant applications. They extended the deadline, which makes me hopeful that not many people applied, and we may be awarded the things that we asked for. So hopefully I'll be hearing from that soon. And Mr. Shirley stole a little bit of my thunder on the autochlor progress that's being made. We're excited to have those machines finally coming in, and I hope that's going to be a real cost savings for our program. On a lighter note, next week is National School Breakfast Week. If you happen to be around a school at breakfast time, we encourage you to go eat with the students.
So anyone who wants to join me,
Yes,
we can both all go together.
that's right.
We don't have a quorum.
And just encourage anybody you see. It's a great time to remember our staff, our cafeteria staff. They work so hard, and I may be prejudiced, but I think we have some of the best lunch food around. They just do a great job. So it's a great time to tell them thanks, a little pat on the back, and encourage any students, parents, come eat breakfast with us, and it's a good time to celebrate. Do you guys have?
I got one vote that y'all serve good food is my grandson.
Oh, that's high praise.
He talk about y'all have the best beans and rice it is.
Well, I had an audience.
I agree with you on that one.
Last night, I drove a group of teenage girls to volleyball practice in Ruston, and they had me hemmed up in the car, and I got lots of suggestions. So we did a little survey at Natchitoches Central, too, that was interesting. So we're taking note and working on menus for next year. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Okay.
Mr. Benfield, Ms. Washington also will be giving her report next Thursday as well.
That's great. Okay, Ms. Palmer, I think we're ready.
Okay, great. Finance, Facilities, Services, and Insurance. Item A, discuss and consider 2023 summer school salary schedule. Dr. Eloy.
Yes, ma'am. So if y'all recollect, we have a normal salary schedule, but during the summer, especially while Esser's paying for it, and we have these large summer schools, we've upped this. None of this is different from last year. When we did this, it's all the exact same. There is one difference, and that is that last one, stipend for principals of summer school site. Now, the reason for that, if you notice, we have summer school coordinator. That's going to be the person running summer school. But we have 10 principals of summer school sites who will be on the ground doing more work, and there's 4 principals who won't be doing any of that work because they don't have summer school at their site. So we would like to offer them a modest stipend for the fact that they are going above and beyond the rest of their cohorts. And we will be asking them to do a lot more than those folks. But other than that, everything is exactly the same. It is a premium for these summer schools under Esser, which I can tell you every parish is having to do because we've never had summer schools this big, or with the fact that you have to have all these people with all these science of reading certifications, and for Esser, they have to be highly qualified. So we have to attract people, and the only way to attract them is by paying them. So questions, comments, concerns?
Who's the coordinator?
The coordinators are the person, you could call them the summer school principal.
Okay.
They're in charge of that site for summer school. Typically what they've been is either an assistant principal, a lead teacher, maybe an instructional specialist, someone who is kind of in administration, but kind of also still in the classroom type stuff. We had a lot of lead teachers last year doing it.
But overall, that principal's still responsible for that physical site, so that's
no,
why
I'm-
that principal's there.
Yeah, I'm thankful that they included that stipend
sir.
in. I mean, it makes it,
Yes, sir.
summer's your time to get all the stuff done at the school that you can't get done during the school year. So when you have a number of students and teachers and people on campus.
They
still
won't say
your
it
site.
publicly, but having summer school on your campus is a pain in the rear. And they do a lot extra, and we think that's a way to bridge that gap for them. So we want them to feel valued and that we see them. So
So what's the difference between the lead teacher and instructional specialist?
So a lead teacher is a classroom teacher that we give a $3,000 stipend out of Title I, and what they do is we work the master schedule to where we give them enough time off to where they can coach teachers with the IS, and then they can also be in the instructional leadership team. But their full-time gig is teaching. It's just kind of an extra little piece, and that's why we give them that other stipend. When you look at the NIET system, they have 3 levels of people. We're not doing that exactly. They have master teachers, which would be our instructional specialists. Then they have mentor teachers, and then they have lead teachers. And it's kind of in that hierarchy. Now, NIET would tell you, you need probably 2 or 3 master teachers for every school, 4 or 5 mentor teachers, and 4 or 5 lead teachers. I can just tell y'all that'd be wonderful when we strike oil, but that's probably not in the cards for us even in the distant future. But that's kind of their model of how they and structure.
So when you hit the lottery, we can do it?
Yes, sir. Well, I'm sorry, when I hit the lottery. But yes, yeah. So.
Okay. That concludes finance. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Mr. Danzy.
6A, discuss and receive information regarding the ending of the NSU Lab School Leadership Pilot. Dr. Eloy?
Yes, sir. And I have to apologize to Dr. McAllister. It slipped my mind to push her to the front, and she's been very patient with us, so she's going to speak on this. We don't want this to harm our relationship with NSU.
Not at all. Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you again. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. Back in January of 2021, Northwestern and the Natchitoches Parish School Board began a pilot for leadership and oversight of the 2 laboratory schools, the NSU Elementary Lab and Middle Lab, where we put 1 director over both sites and then an assistant to the director that was housed at the middle school. I think all of you are aware, but those 2 schools are located across campus from each other. They are not adjacent in any way. And we felt that this was the best use of funds since Ben LaGrone was coming to the school board office to work with that leadership team at that time in the middle of the year. With some feedback, we extended that pilot, and so now we are ending our 2.5-year pilot of having that single director. We have surveyed parents. We have gotten feedback from teachers. We've talked with the leadership team, both locally as well as Mr. LaGrone and Dr. Eloy. And Dr. Eloy and I agree that we believe it's best to have a building level principal on each site. Karen Coleman has done a yeoman's job and she does a terrific job, but she can't be 2 places at one time. And so we are preparing to advertise for a principal's position at the Middle Lab School. Now, this has no bearing on Natchitoches Parish School Board's budget. That position is paid through tuition dollars. But we work in collaboration with you guys, and so we want to make sure that you are in agreement with why we're going back to this system. And so we have really enjoyed the increased collaboration between the middle lab and the elementary lab with the single director. And we are going to work very hard to make sure that that doesn't change as they go back to 2 building supervisors. But we do think that it's best for the overall operations of the schools to have that. And so our goal is before the end of March to advertise that, and it'll be advertised through Natchitoches Parish Schools. Natchitoches Parish Schools does the vetting of that, and then together we select that other building supervisor. Whoever is selected for that position will certainly be working in tandem with the instructional supervisor, what's the term? Specialist, the instructional specialist, Sheila, that works between both of those schools, and then Karen Coleman. They have a terrific team that works between both schools, and we hope that that will continue even when there is a principal on each site. We believe that they're better when they can do some crossover, and each principal can visit some of the teachers at the other site to make sure that we've got best practices happening at every level. Do you have any questions for me or about that decision or about the lab schools in general?
Really, you hired a new principal for this year, it's going to start for next school year.
Our hope is for them to be hired by June 1, just so that they'll have the summer to prepare for the new school year. Yes, sir.
You said you'll advertise for middle lab?
For middle lab, yes, sir. And that will be open to the current assistant principal as well as others, both inside and outside the parish. Another part of the pilot that I want to make sure that you're aware of is using some of the tuition dollars is that we began 2 years ago a scholarship program. And so we've been able to assist about 30 families in the academic year 21-22 and 22-23. They apply, and it is need-based with tuition assistance. And we think that that's been a great use of funds and a great way to help increase enrollment so that it is reflective of the total Natchitoches Parish, not just a particular part of it.
Is there a limit as far as a number of students that can apply at each school? I know there's a capacity.
Yes, ma'am. We do have a capacity of 180 students at the middle lab school. I apologize, I can get you the capacity at the elementary lab. I know it's based by the number of students in the classroom, but I don't have that total number. For some reason, 330. It's about 300, yeah. Thank you, Micah.
Any other questions?
The other thing that I will say is I appreciate the school board and all of the members working so diligently with us, as you know, both from the city of Natchitoches and then Northwestern. We had a series of unfortunate events dealing with water and with the heating system. And so I just appreciate the collaboration that we have with this organization. So thank you for that.
To thank Dr. McAllister, because that was not a fun time, and she was so gracious, so helpful, and so transparent throughout the entire process. So we had numerous conversations via text and call, and
we did.
It was a fun time.
We'll send y'all the bill next month.
As long as I can send you mine. Thank y'all.
You mentioned about the scholarships now that are available to needy families. How do you advertise the availability of the scholarships?
It is part of all of the enrollment packets that go out. So any student that inquires about that goes out, and part of our advertisements that'll go in the Natchitoches Parish Journal and other things will have something about need-based scholarships are available. But because we're filling those slots, I want to think that the deadline is sometime in mid-June for the applications to be received so that we can give them. It actually may be June 1st. Ms. McGuess.
Askew's point, it's for people currently in there, but what?
And also new.
New, but we want to start. I think there's some people who may look at lab and never consider it because of the price, and hopefully this will start to permeate people's consciousness, and they'll realize it is possibly affordable if I get this scholarship.
Correct.
And maybe apply more.
Are we going to be able to keep the scholarships by picking up that principal salary again?
Yes, sir.
So that money is, Northwestern is accounting for that extra.
Well, we have accounted for that extra, and so as of right now, with the current price that we believe that the principal and salary and benefits will cost, we'll still be able to allocate money for scholarships. I will tell you, I have not gotten the final word if I can keep the same amount. So the past 2 years, it was a flat amount of $35,000 that I was able to offer, and I can't tell you that it'll be exactly that amount, but that is my goal.
So it's a great idea to have the information given to the public to allow people, children that meet the eligibility criteria to have the opportunity to attend.
Yes, ma'am.
And I did hear you say it assists those that are already in there, but families that have children that they would want to have the opportunity to attend.
Right.
To, be made aware.
Thank you. But that's a great reminder to make sure that that is part of those announcements that will be going out in the coming weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Item 6B, discuss and consider changes to the Natchitoches Parish School Board policy, GBRH and DJH concerning out-of-state travel.
Can I lead off with that?
Lead off, yes, sir.
You know, this policy has had the most contention of any in the last year and a half. And so we have a policy committee, but I thought it would be good for the committee as a whole, the entire board, to look at this and let's all weigh in on what we think would be the best route and the best method to deal with this. And so I've asked the superintendent to not only establish what we have, but also let's get some sample policies. And he's bridged that with John Geis and some others. So
Yeah, and I want to be clear too, because I think I made a statement at one point that the lawyers said something that we shouldn't do this, and I got clarification because the last time I spoke to John was about this, was probably the last time we spoke about it the first time, and we can keep it this way. There's nothing wrong or illegal or Act 1 with us keeping it this way if we want to keep it in policy, and we can follow that policy. But what they do say, and this comes from Hammond, Seals and Guys, is they do encourage at any point, and I think they call it, best practice or best governance, anything that we can take off the agenda, they recommend to boards to take off the agenda. It's still up to y'all as y'all have the authority to say, well, hey, we appreciate that information, but we're still going to do what we're going to do. I did a sample size of about 20 parishes of what they do. And I'll be honest with y'all, it was split completely down the middle. What I found was it seems like the smaller and the more rural tend to leave it to the board. The larger you get, the more metropolitan you get, it tends to be a little, and what I attribute this to is perhaps those groups are a little more progressive, or they have bigger agendas and they were trying to trim down those agendas. And the only difference,
and a third item, budgets.
yes,
Dr. Eloy and I were talking today about the amount of out-of-state travel that used to occur 20 years ago, and it was, what was the word you used? Obscene?
I don't know what the word was I used, but I went through me and Ms. Kanika were going through 2003 to 2007, every board minute in that today for a special project. And we went to Canada, Las Vegas, San Francisco, Denver, Orlando. It looked like a lot of fun.
We spent a lot of time adjusting board route drivers, a quarter mile, eighth mile, half mile, and personnel problems. Remember that, Emil? And so that's what our meeting consisted of.
So here's where I'm at with it. And again, I want y'all to know, I don't have a dog in the hunt. If y'all decide to stick with what we're doing, I'm fine with that. If y'all don't, that's fine as well. But what we look at more so on this is we have travel budgets. Specifically, Title II is our big travel budget, and then Lee is going to have a line item from general that's a smaller travel budget for whether it's him going to LASSAFAT, Ms. Page going to personnel, or me going to the last conference, whatever. There'd be a small budget, and what we would do to ensure the accountability piece is it would be budgeted. So whatever we go on, you would be assured that it would be budgeted if you want to defer that to myself. Now, if you recall, and I know we have all this baggage with this policy. When we first talked about it, Mr. Benfield brought it up about the Italy trip, and then we never solidified it. So what we've done is these two policies are the two policies that deal with out-of-state travel. And so if you pull up, Mr. Kozad, the first one is ours. And if you scroll down just to where it, So in the first policy, that's where it talks about out of state, any emergency travel requests between board meetings can come to me and executive committee. So, if it's a last minute thing, I can talk to Billy and Russ and we can figure that out. But then also when requesting travel out of state, the number of days previously traveled during the fiscal year shall be indicated. That's the only thing there, but it implies that the superintendent's not in charge of it. If you go down to the next policy, this one deals with it to a greater degree, and it's also highlighted. All out-of-state travel shall be approved by the board prior to travel, so on and so forth. Now, what I found in most of the other board policies, they either mirrored this exactly, or they said superintendent covers all the employees, but board approves board travel. And then some of them had another caveat, which was superintendent covers all travel as long as it's not tied to like a certain dollar amount or certain funds. When it hits a certain dollar amount, then it goes to the board. And I won't bore you with basically what I did. I think I put 4 or 5 different parishes and their 2 policies of one or 2 of their policies with this. And you can kind of just read through them. I don't think we need to do it tonight, but y'all can look through each one of those and say, and I look at Washita, actually, Mr. Coz, I bring up Washita's. I thought theirs was just pretty simple. It's the first one on the page. And I'll tell you the other reason I like Washita. If y'all don't know, John Geis, his brother, is now the superintendent of Washita. He was the HR director. I feel like that connective tissue between them means that they, a lot of times, get their policy pretty good.
First,
Yeah. But what they say, all out-of-state travel by board members must be approved by the board prior to the travel commencing. All out-of-state travel by employees must be approved in advance by the superintendent, blah, 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 and it goes on. That to me is very cut and dry, but that's only if philosophically y'all want to go with a change in it being the purview of the superintendent as opposed to y'all's purview. I think what we talked about also with this, when Bob brought this up initially, when Billy brought it up, was he asked, and I think we talked to Mr. McTwire and Mr. Danzy, because y'all have been on the board the longest at that point. Is there any recollection in y'all's tenure on the board where we've ever denied travel? And I want to say when we had that discussion, it may not have been with all of y'all, that no one could recollect a specific one we denied. And so because it's kind of a rubber stamp, do y'all want to keep that?
I think there was one.
There was one, but it was expensive.
Yeah, it was a whole department, and they were going somewhere exotic, and
Yeah.
it was anyway. The deal here was, instead of taking half or a third of the staff and coming back and training the other, they were taking the entire staff, and every year the location kept getting, it seemed to be more expensive. And I think we denied that one. And I can't even remember, that was like 2003, 2005?
Well, and you want your policy to supersede the people currently in the positions because you don't know who the next guy or gal is. But I will tell you, after reading that stuff today, Ms. Kanika can attest, we have a much more conservative approach to travel, I think, now than previously. Probably mainly because I don't like to travel myself, and I think that kind of filters down. But I think the only way to make y'all feel comfortable if we make this shift is to have a more detailed budget item that dictates that the number you are comfortable with overall travel.
That's really what should control it, is the budget. If you got the money and it's important, then you do it.
Yeah.
And if you're cutting back in other areas just to take a trip, that's not the deal.
That's not
the deal.
So that's all I had to say about it. I would strongly suggest y'all read through because I put the policies that kind of speak to that with those other districts. I will tell you, just to give you some idea, I think Washita, Lafayette, DeSoto, EBR, Jefferson, those were some of the ones who say, no, we do it. Some of the ones who say we give it to the school board, Red River, Grant, Bienville. So again, some of these smaller rural. So I don't think we can do wrong.
The bigger they get, the more travel requests it would be the board having to deal with. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
can see it be prohibitive, like in an Orleans or a Lafayette.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I could think month to month, they may have 100 on there or something like that.
Again, since this has been such a hot button, hot topic in the last couple of years, year and a half anyway, I thought it was prudent to have the entire board take a look at it and let everybody weigh in on it, so.
Yeah, and full transparency, we did not want, because we could have done it in policy, but when I talked to Mr. Benefield, we both agreed that we did not want anyone to feel like we circumvented the full board by doing this in the policy committee.
I think that's wise. And item 6C, discuss and review, receive the 2022-23 pupil progression revision.
Okay, so if y'all remember last month, we had to do an addendum, but that was
Right.
based on something that came from Bessie. What this was, we're not changing anything. There was some language in the current policy that was murky. And so a principal came to us and said, hey, I know what y'all mean, but it's not spelled out exactly. So we're clarifying information here. We're not changing anything, we're just clarifying. And this is specifically about what classes you have to have and what quality points you have to be able to actually progress.
This makes it pretty clear, I thought.
Yeah, and
like
if you
it.
saw the previous one,
Yeah.
it just kind of said, it didn't have all the points and everything that really clarified for people. So it left us open to interpretation, and we didn't want that.
And it's good to know this is the criteria.
Yeah.
It should be this criteria.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
that's indicated.
I'm really excited. Miss Felicia, along with some of the folks on our team, we are gonna have, and Mr. Nicholson can probably attest to the ambiguity that pupil progression used to have. We are refining this every year to the point where I think it's gonna be a perfect roadmap for principals to know, I don't know the answer, go to pupil progression. Whereas before, it didn't really help you that much. So,
And that concludes the executive report.
Board members, LSBA next week, the two fight committee, will meet at 1 PM on Monday. Like to invite everyone that, agreed to attend to be there Monday. Very important work here. And, we get our LSBA continuing education points. Our next meeting is when, Mr. Matoir?
Well, the ninth, ain't
It'll be here next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
By the way, we would look at the capital conference meeting. I think it's May the 9th or something like that.
Dr.
I
Pope usually
just got the
communicates.
email about it. I'm gonna send you guys an email tomorrow. Please be on the lookout for it unless you wanna tell me tonight that yes, you do plan on going.
What's the location?
Baton Rouge.
Same as always, Baton Rouge.
But I'll send you all the detail, I'll email you the details tomorrow, as far as the date, and any other information I may need from you all. As far as next week with LSBA, please be sure to take your tax exempt form with you. It's already filled out. You'll need to sign it there. Please be sure to give it to them and then bring me the hotel receipts, please.
She's speaking to me on the hotel receipt. And just a heads up, I will not be in office tomorrow because I'm going to hopefully go lift a trophy that I had no business in earning, but I will get in that picture. So,
I was intending to ask you something right quick when you did your report. It was pertaining to the question I had about the PTC, with the elementary age kids that were attending and, the question about the counselor.
so
for
yes,
the
ma'am.
location.
So they currently have a counselor, and I think I told you, I can't remember when, that we are looking to expand the social workers to them. There should never be a student under sixth grade at MPTCC. Now, with that same thought in mind, we have been toying with the idea of, on the off occasion, when you do have an expulsion of a younger child, where could we have one classroom, maybe at East, Weaver, Magnet, wherever it is, where you'd have one classroom that would service all, basically the city schools, and perhaps a Provençal Marthville in that case, where you could have one site for those younger kids. We haven't really, that conversation is ongoing, and if it occurs, it'll be for next year, because the problem is, we don't have a lot of elementary expulsions.
Yes.
So we really don't want to fund really two positions probably for that, but at the same time, we also need those students to have a place to go. So
Yes.
we're looking at numbers and trying to track how many students there are in a given year and see what the best approach to that is.
Is it a grade level minimum, sixth grade, or is it an age?
I'm sorry, it's, yeah. It's an age situation, so we would say typical sixth grade is what, 11 and 12? We would not go younger than 11 at NPTCC.
Okay, so you're working on a plan to address that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Because, again, we have very few underage expulsions, but it does happen, and they
Does
do not
happen.
need to be at NPTCC.
No, okay. Thank you.
Just early Tuesday?
Yeah, well, they normally have a flyer out, but there's nothing on the website.
I think I am too.
I think it's at 5, whatever, 3 o'clock or so that Tuesday evening.
Is early bird, well, I'm
Not the early bird, the early bird.
I pulled up the agenda today.
Early
It
bird
starts,
Monday.
early bird classes at 9:30 on Tuesday, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Get all of
First
it.
ones are at 9:30.
All right, one more,
I'm not gonna go
one
down,
more thing before we leave.
I'm gonna go early.
One more thing, a couple of things before we leave. Yeah, board members, Ms. Kanika's gonna email everyone the agenda tomorrow, and travel safely and get back to us safely, and go Gators. Go Gators.
Yay.
Oh.